Good afternoon, everybody. I'm John Marino from the NAB, and welcome to the Next Frontier, original programming in the world of online video. In this session, industry experts from the creation, marketing, and distribution sides will share insights on how to determine if an original series is right for your audience and what kind of programming best meets your business goals, creating a marketing and distribution plan that ensures the content gets noticed, and how to attract and leverage the content. Moderating the discussion today is Josh Dickey, who has recently been named entertainment editor at Mashable, where he plans to dive into the depths of digital content, viral pop culture, and the many ways the connected generation is engaging with our industry. Prior to that, he spent 4 years fighting for scoops in the Hollywood press, including as film editor at Variety and managing editor at The Wrap. In another life, Dickey spent 10 years at the Associated Press, where he took on a variety of editorships at AP's global headquarters in New York, including national news, sports, entertainment, and its upstart digital imprint. He's a graduate of the University of Minnesota School of Journalism. Please welcome Josh Dickey.
Hey everybody, my name is Josh Dickey, you heard right, and today we are talking about the next frontier, original programming in the world of online video. Congratulate yourself if you are here. I know that this is the National Association of Broadcasting, but as we all know, online video is where things are going, so you guys are the smart group, and welcome. We have some really great panelists and some great stuff to talk about today. My first panelist is Phil Alvidrez. He's the executive in charge of production at RightThisMinute, which I believe just picked up 10 Fox affiliates on top of all the other deals you guys have going. What's kind of neat about Phil's deal is that your show is about online video and includes online video, but it is actually migrated to the broadcast format, so we'll talk somewhat about that. To his left is Frank Besteiro, Vice President, Head of Business Development and Partnerships at AOL Video. Just checked out something this morning on your homepage. Very cool Hank Azaria series about fatherhood, which is really very touching and very neat. We'll talk about that as well. To his left is Whitney Howard, who recently came on to become the Senior Vice President of Business Development and Strategy at Condé Nast. I have been in the Condé Nast cafeteria in New York. She's under a lot of pressure. Please be nice to her. She also had a past life at Sony Music. We want to talk a little bit about that today, too. I'd like to get into that, because that is a world that definitely intersects with online video in a lot of ways. And finally, at the end of the line, Amy Singer, Head of News Partnerships for North America at YouTube. And I think YouTube has something to do with this online video thing, right? It's a bit of a... So there will be some relevance there as well. Amy and Whitney actually have something in common. You guys are both from banking backgrounds, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Rehabbed investment.
Congratulations on getting out. You got out alive. So, Phil, I'm going to start with you, and then as we do these, we can just sort of go down the line. You guys talk. Feel free to chime in as you like. But I do want to talk, just because of the nature of this conference, about translating web video to broadcast. Phil, tell us a little bit about your show and how you wound up becoming syndicated.
Our show is called RightThisMinute. And the premise behind the show is we find videos before they go viral, and we tell you the stories behind them. We do the work so you don't have to. It seemed to me, my background is in broadcast, and as we looked at what was going on in the broadcast world, you see user-generated content kind of seeping in a little bit, but usually it's the kicker on a local newscast, or on Good Morning America, or the Today Show, or it's fodder for Tasha's comedy act, and he uses videos to help support that. But there are a ton of content creators out there all over the world. There's hardly an event that happens that doesn't have cameras on it, and those events get posted. There are people out there creating all sorts of creative content, and so what we do is we find those videos. We have a team of people who go out and just troll the internet all day long looking for stuff that is interesting and shareable. In fact, I don't know that we want to go to it just yet, but I'll have a...
Let's go to the clip. Phil brought a clip. Come on. Let's not waste any time.
Only because video is always more interesting than people talking.
Let's see the
Here
clip.
is an example of a video many of you have seen. Let me just run it, and then I'll talk to you just a moment about it.
Okay.
It's called The Baby, Emotional Baby. It really has sound.
We'll feel why it's gone viral. I don't want you to come around here no more. I beg you for mercy.
This precious little girl is 10-month-old Marie Lynn. Mom says, I'm going to sing you a song, Sarah Evans' version of Rod Stewart's song, My Heart Can't Tell You No. Watch as her emotions change as the song keeps going.
I'm gonna wake up missing you. Wake up missing you.
She's just incredibly emotional at the depth of this song, but also the mother's beautiful voice.
The lyrics for this song are so emotional. They are so moving. It's about loving someone who doesn't love you back, and it's as if this 10-month-old child understands that feeling.
It's not like baby crying. It's like adult crying.
Well, we were eager to know more about this beautiful bond between mother and daughter. So via Skype, right this minute, to tell us more, we have Dad Elaine, Mom Amanda, and precious Marie Lynn. Does she cry like this at every song, or is it this particular one?
It's actually just this one.
Were you just absolutely blown away the first time you saw her react to this song?
Yeah, it's like you were saying earlier, it's almost like as if she understands, which I know at 10 months old there's no way that she would understand the lyrics, but just the emotion from the song, maybe the way I feel when I sing the song.
Hey Dad, what did you think of this emotional moment?
You didn't believe me.
I didn't really believe it. One day she decided to record it, and I got to see it for the first time, and I was completely blown away.
What do you guys think about all the attention that this video is getting online?
I'm surprised. Like, it's cute and all, and like you were saying, we pretty much just did this mostly for our family, right? Aunts and uncles and cousins, and it exploded. And we're just in shock, basically.
Are you a trained singer? Because your voice is beautiful.
No, not at all. I just sang, I don't know, around the house, and like, I'm really shy, so no, I just got it from my mom, I guess, good genetics, I don't know.
No matter how I try to convince myself, this time I won't lose control.
That's what we do with Right This Minute. When we found this video, it only had a few thousand views. And today it has over 31 million views. And it wasn't just because we found it and put it on our television show. It was because that struck a chord with a lot of people, and you shared that video. You shared it around the world. Now, the family didn't set out to be a YouTube sensation, and they didn't really set out to be content creators. But it turned out that they were. And there's a whole world of that out there that is something that we've been able to tap into and in essence try to bridge the world between what is happening online around the world and what is happening on broadcast television.
Boy, am I glad they didn't have a camera on me at the Celine Dion show last night, because that's exactly what happened.
Is that what you did?
Yeah.
You know?
It was just like that. Very different what you guys do, I think, because you're primarily focused on user-generated content versus Frank and Whitney. For the most part, you guys are engaging talent. You are creating videos from whole cloth. You are essentially running what would the online equivalent of a television network, leveraging your brands and the things that you have. I'm curious about the proliferation of platforms and how Facebook is doing its own video and so forth. I'm sure AOL's got its own homepage. But you know, Phil here is creating something for broadcast syndication. You're creating for an online audience. What's the difference? And talk a little bit about what you're doing. I'll start with you, Frank, at AOL.
Sure. So I think the benefit of the web, what it has done, it has completely transformed the way we consume content. Right? We're no longer sitting in our living rooms for appointment viewing. We're no longer sitting there, you know, have to be home at 8 o'clock to watch whatever show I want to watch outside of sports, right? So because of that, it's opened up channels for, you know, folks like ourselves, folks like Condé, Nast, and others, to actually reach audience with some compelling original content that people want to come back and see. And so I have a clip of one of the shows we did last year called Candlina Cole. Tremendous success for us, and what we quickly found out that not only the power of our distribution, but also the power of her social media talents, as well as other social media aspects that we brought into the show, we rivaled viewership on what you see on the leading cable networks today. As part of it, that show is now being sold to television, and so it's been a tremendous success for us. And you know, usually when you think of compelling content, I'll be the first one to admit I don't think you're going to raise your hand and be like, oh, AOL, of course. But we did. It was a great success. Had a few other shows which are also extremely successful for us. And we're going to be announcing some more this year as well. But I think that the key for us has been, one, obviously the change in consumption patterns of content, but also our built-in distribution is a huge factor in everything we do as well.
You're talking, excuse me, you mentioned that one of your shows is going to broadcast. Mm-hmm. Is that the end game for what you guys are doing, or
not necessarily.
Sort of another port?
Not necessarily. I mean, it's an opportunity, obviously, right? I mean, you're not going to turn away somebody who's offering you a check. So obviously that's a nice surprise to have. The end game is to create compelling content about interesting stories that people want to view and keep consuming afterwards. Mm-hmm. It's not about a single distribution platform. It's about multiple distribution platforms as wide as possible. That's what we're in the business of doing. If we're a media company, we want as many eyeballs on the content as possible so we can monetize that content. So from our perspective, no platform is off the table.
Whitney, I'm going to get to you in 1 second, but as long as you brought up the clip, let's get another clip up there. What do you say? Come on.
Cue the clip.
You're pretty, but like you were prettier last year.
Really nothing different in the production quality from what you might see on TV there, and I think we're seeing that across the board with what you guys are doing. Whitney, you have some amazing brands to play with here. I mean, you have Vogue, you have even the defunct Gourmet, you've got Epicurious, you've got Glamour, you've got, I could go on and on and on. That gives you an amazing opportunity and a built-in audience. Talk to us a little bit about what you are doing at Condé and how it works.
Sure. I joined the company a little over a year ago, and Condé Nast for decades has been known as the publisher of very premium, beautiful magazines, but the company's never been known for producing digital video. And we decided to transform that starting in March of last year by relaunching the digital video experience for each one of our publications. So we started with GQ and Glamour, and over the course of last year, we launched 8 of our brands: Wired, Vanity Fair, Vogue, Teen Vogue, Style.com, Epicurious, and this year we've relaunched Self, Allure, and Golf Digest, and we've produced over 50 episodic shows, thousands of episodes of content, and beyond putting those shows on our owned and operated websites, we've partnered with companies like AOL and YouTube to find not just existing fans of our brands, but also new fans of our brands through these shows.
You mentioned YouTube, and I'm glad you did. Phil, your stuff is on YouTube?
Yes.
Frank, your stuff, YouTube?
Yep.
I've got something on YouTube, but I don't think I'm going to put a clip of that up here right now. All roads lead to YouTube. Everybody's on YouTube. Amy, the one thing I will say is that everybody loves YouTube. They think it's an amazing platform. Clearly, it's transformed everything. And yet, I do consistently hear that it's difficult sometimes for content creators to monetize on YouTube. And part of that is because YouTube's got the bully pulpit, right? Am I right, guys? And they can do things kind of the way they want. When you're making partnerships, what are some of the challenges? What are the things that you have to convince people of? Or is YouTube just so big and powerful now that everybody's coming to you?
Well, our mission at YouTube is to be a platform for anyone in the world who wants to get their story out there to anyone in the world. And I think we put a tremendous amount of resource and effort into making sure we have the best video player out there and amazing tools for our creators. Of course, revenue is something that we're all thinking about, and for our creator community, we are up 60% this year in revenue, and mobile's increased 3 times this year. So we're on the right trajectory. But we're also putting a lot of time and thought into how we are monetizing our content and how our creators can benefit from that. But for us, we're trying to bring the best tools, the best video to the platform, and then the creators bring their content together, and then the rev share falls into place from there.
You also have set up, like I know because I live across the street from it in Los Angeles, YouTube Space LA, which is an amazing state-of-the-art, it's a giant hangar, probably 3 or 4 times the size of this room that we're in now, where content creators can come in, and if you have a channel of more than 10,000 subscribers, you can just use anything you want. They've got red cameras, they've got booms and jibs, they've got sound stages, they've got crew, they've got post-production facilities.
Really, I mean, it's state-of-the-art.
It's insane.
Resource center, and it's not just LA.
I was going to say they're building one in New York, they're building one in Los Angeles, or I'm sorry, in London, and it's an interesting model because you're providing essentially all of the infrastructure. All you have to bring is the talent and the people.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we want to provide as many resources as we can to our creators to help them grow their audience. And it's not just about growing an audience. I mean, I think it really starts with establishing your brand, building a brand there, and then building a community around that. So whether it's the space, and if you have 10,000 subscribers, you can use the spaces. Whether it's using our playbook, which is a best practices guide that we have online, or our creator hub. There's a lot of resources out there that can help you figure out the right strategy to start to get your content around the globe.
And YouTube gets to wet its beak when you take off too. Then come on, that's that's what it's for, right? It's a really cool model. It's a neat idea. Phil, you had spoken a little bit earlier about how you guys get these viral videos before they go viral, which leads me to something that I've been saying, and I think a lot of people have been saying for years, but I think is at an inflection point here, which was viral is not a strategy, viral is a phenomenon. But I don't know that that's the case anymore. At least it feels very much to me with a lot of the predictive modeling, and Mashable does some of this as well. We can start to see these things, right, trending before they really start trending. Yeah, what do you guys do?
Well, there's very sophisticated modeling that you guys are doing, that YouTube are doing. You know, our goal is to beat the models. You know, and really, Frank said it earlier. You know, compelling and interesting always wins when it comes to content. If you're interested in it, I mean, when we look for videos, we have 2 criteria. Are you interested in it, and would you share it with a friend? And if you can't answer yes to both of those questions, then move on. But if you can, then that's the secret. And so what we do is just put eyeballs on it. But I think if you guys spent all your day looking at nothing but videos, you get very good at predicting it too, and it would probably closely match the models you guys are developing.
But even like the title of the video is so important, and Mashable is brilliant at this. But you want to think, would an audience, would a user copy and paste this title into an email and feel good about sending it to a friend or posting it on Facebook? So those little simple word tweaks can also be very powerful in making sure that the shareability element is there.
And it's one of the differences between broadcast and on the web, because on broadcast you watch our show linearly. You watch one video comes right after the other, right after the other. And you watch until you're no longer interested, but there's going to be another video there. When we take our show and present it on mobile or on the website, it's chopped up, and we have to follow those exact same rules. The same story is dependent upon the thumbnail and the headline, on whether you're going to click on it.
In what ways is that phenomenon, the socialization, and it's funny because I just recently heard the term social publishing, which is exactly that. It's the shareability factor as opposed to SEO and search, or is this going to interest people? It really is, will they share with their friends? What are the subtle differences in content creation that get you over the line between interested and will share?
I think it's a mix of a lot of things. I think it's obviously compelling story, but also talent has a big part to play in this whole thing. I think when we're looking at creating content, having the backing of talent, whether on their own social media platforms, on talk shows they're doing, on linear side, radio side, whatever it is, right? Having talent back that is a very big piece of what we do. Because I think for the web, we have a little bit of a compelling issue where discoverability can be difficult, right? And when you're creating content that you're investing a lot of money into, I know you guys go through this as well, you're getting A-list, you're paying that A-list premium for a reason, and it's not just to have their name attached to it, but it's to have their name attached to it, but also promote it on their end as well. So from our standpoint, when we look at contracting or even creating new content, talent's got to be all in, or it's kind of a, you know what, we're going to pass until they're ready.
Are you writing it into contracts with talent now that they need to leverage their social media?
We are, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Are they following through? Are they
fight it?
Yes. The better the content, the more they are excited about sharing it. We just had a huge uptick in our glamour channel on YouTube because of a show that we have with a big YouTube content creator named Candy Johnson. I have a clip, Josh.
Oh,
it's only 45 seconds. And it really leverages kind of a how-to, which is a great format on YouTube and beyond, a huge digital influencer that we're partnering with. And she was very pleased with the outcome, and she tweeted it, she Instagrammed it, she Facebooked it, and we really saw the uptick because of that.
Mm-hmm. What about that clip, Whitney? Tell us a little bit about it. You know, we might as well just watch it now, right?
Hi guys, I'm Candy Johnson, and as a makeup artist and YouTube beauty expert, there's nothing I love more than a good makeup transformation. So I'm teaming up with Glamour magazine to recreate some of the coolest covers from the last 75 years. With makeup tips and tricks that you can actually use now. Watch, subscribe, let me know what you think, because you are watching Beauty Recovered.
And Josh, we're producing long form, short form, animated, scripted, unscripted, comedy, reality, all types of formats. But to your earlier question, we see that content that performs the best for us is timely, of the moment, unique. We had a really big hit with Kate Bosworth for a Vogue video, getting her first view at her wedding dress with Oscar de la Renta. And just a couple of weeks ago, we released 73 Questions with Sarah Jessica Parker, which if you haven't seen, you should see. Also a Vogue video. Fun, it's 73 questions in 5 minutes with a tour through her house. It was a sense of access. It felt authentic, and it's been a huge hit for us.
I'm glad you brought up what's working, because I do want to talk about that right now, the kinds of content that work versus the kinds that don't. It seems very much, as I was looking at, for instance, Frank, I was looking at your AOL homepage today. You guys do a lot with politics, you do a lot with news, a lot of real timely stuff. And yet I went over to a rival website today that does very, very well in the social publishing and viral space, who I shall not name. Their top 3 videos today were how to win at 5 classic board games, what it's like to have insomnia, and the evolution of pizza. Not exactly like of the moment stuff there, right? So clearly there's a blend of news right now, topics, and also just like completely stupid stuff that just came up off the top of your head, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, we program for our audience, right? I think that the biggest thing, especially in the portal business, not a lot of people come to AOL midday to get news, right? But millions of them start their day there, right? So from our perspective, we want to grab our audience and program for who's our demo. We need to understand that. So analytics become a very big part of what we do, becomes a very big part of how we program, become a very big part of how we create content, et cetera, et cetera. So from our perspective, what we have found, we're not in the business of, not monetizing video. So the more people are going to watch a video, the more money we're able to charge our advertisers and more revenue it brings in. So we program, a lot of the stories you see on AOL.com are programmed for a purpose, not just for the sake of putting it up there and hoping it works.
Amy, you probably see a lot of deep dive metrics and back-end stuff. Tell us about what are the factors that go into something really taking off?
I think what we see is that having an authentic voice and knowing your audience is absolutely critical. So if you look at a BuzzFeed or a Mashable, which is bringing the news to this younger generation, they know that that younger generation does want to be entertained as a part of that. So they want to be entertained and informed, and they play off of that. Whereas if you look at something like a Vice News, which recently launched, they know that their audience wants the news brought to them in their vernacular by someone who's on the field, unfiltered, a global perspective, and that's what they're tailoring towards. So I think as you're creating your content and building your brand, you absolutely have to be authentic to your voice. And if you look at a Candy Johnson, I mean, she listens to her audience. I guarantee all those makeup pieces that she's done, I mean, they're timely, but they're also probably things that her audience is asking for in the comments. And one of the things that all these social media platforms bring to the table is this element of interactivity and the ability to really connect with your audience and hear what they want. And you got to listen and react against that.
There's a lot of interaction. There's a lot of stuff, and a lot of that is noise. How do you filter through what is meaningful interaction? I mean, you have, let's say you've got 20,000 comments. How do you understand what from that is going to direct what you're doing?
Yeah. Well, you know, managing a YouTube channel or any social media channel is work. And if you really want to be engaged with your fans, you do have to put in the time to listen. And as you're going through comments, there's a great example of a channel called Epic Rap Battle. And what they do is they take historical characters like Santa Claus versus Moses, and they pit them together in this epic rap battle. And at the end, they ask their audience who won, and then they ask their audience, who would you like to see next, and we'll create it for you. So I think pretty quickly they can get through those comments to see what the trends are, and they may not be responding to every comment, but if they know that the general population wants them to pivot in a certain direction, they follow that lead.
Josh, I think that success can mean a number of different things. Some traditional metrics are views and comments and engagement, but at Condé, since we're producing such a wide range of content, one thing that we look at is velocity. So if we release a new show, and even if it's for a small niche audience, but we see it picking up organically a lot in the first few days, that to us is success.
It's interesting that you say that because it's very similar to the way that we look at stories that we produce and put on the website. In fact, each one of our stories has a little graph that you can see, you know, shooting up or shooting down or how it's trending. And the metrics of success are very much changing. It used to be page views, it used to be unique visitors, and it still is to some degree. But now we're starting to look at things like the amount of times it's been shared on Facebook, and the speed with which it's going along. What are some of the new metrics for online video that you guys are working with and paying attention to? And I think more importantly, how are those metrics affecting the way that you're creating content?
So I think from our perspective, it's really views number one, right? I mean, because at the end of the day, our advertisers, thank you ComScore, I hope I didn't offend anybody who's from ComScore is here. But essentially, that's really what they care about, right? What is your ComScore ranking? How are you performing in those rankings? So for us, it's views. However, we have 15 different verticals of content. So every vertical has its own kind of intricacies and own kind of factors, I think, that come into play. But from our perspective is, are they interacting with more video, right? If it's one and done, from our perspective, it's not a success, right? It's one, look for more, interact with more, and then grow from there. So for our perspective, a single video view, great, yeah, great to have it, but obviously multiple video views is what we really want. So if we're seeing a certain video we put up there that people are just kind of clicking once and nobody's searching again, that means we failed. So from our perspective, it's time spent on page as well as interacting with more video.
Yeah, we're really focused on time spent as well. So the two metrics we're honing in on are subscribers, people who are subscribing to your channel so that it shows up in the homepage feed and you're getting in front of them as much as you possibly can. And then watch time. And so watch time, we look at watch time as how long is that user actually staying with the video? Are they making it to the end? When do they drop out? And once they watch that video, do they continue to watch other videos on YouTube? So you want to be looking at those metrics. If you have your videos on YouTube, you want to see, well, when did the user drop off, and how can I increase this retention rate? Because the higher the retention rate, the better that video is going to perform in search.
Phil, you've got a foot in both the broadcast and the online video world. What can broadcasters learn from the online video boom? Like, what are they not paying attention to that they should be at this point?
Well, I think they should be paying attention to the fact that it's not going to go away. And we looked at it and said, you can either embrace that and bring that to a broadcast audience, or you can run the risk of losing out on a phenomenon. We're interested in the clips that you've shown, the makeover clip. That'd be great. Who doesn't like to see makeovers? Who doesn't like to see personality? Who doesn't like to learn something along the way? And the fact that Glamour's producing that's going to be interesting. And it's not just interesting to people who read the magazine. It's interesting to people who might see it in another forum. And so I think what we've said is are there ways to take content that you might not be able to find and give it a broader based platform? And that's still what broadcasting can do. And every day, and we're a little show. I mean, we're doing well, and right now it's beating Queen Latifah, but so it's the #1 news show on the air in syndication. I think that's a reflection, hopefully, that we're doing a good job, but I also think it's a reflection that people are interested in this kind of content, and if you can bring it to them, whether it's through platforms that they've discussed or through YouTube, that's what we can find. I think that's what we've learned is that storytelling, and that's really ultimately what we all are doing, is we're telling stories. Storytelling is universal. That has not changed. The mediums have changed. The method of delivery has changed. The platforms have changed. But storytelling is as old as man.
Phil, not to generalize, but if you like the makeup show, I've got some other stories.
You know, we do stuff all the time with it's not our core because, you know, we're again looking for user-generated content, but we're looking for something that's new, and we're looking for personalities. Amy mentioned, you know, the YouTube channel, and there are all sorts of examples of it. There's a young filmmaker in Utah. His name is Devin Graham. He goes by Devin Supertramp. If you haven't gone on YouTube and checked out his stuff, go check out his stuff. We found him early on, and you know, I'd like to think that we provided a platform for some of his creative talents, and people saw it. And we carry his stories when he produces new stories, but his channel's there the whole time. And people who enjoy his work can go find it there. And now, because this is a business, advertisers have noticed that he has a lot of following, and he has, you know, well over, you know, 1 million people following him. Now when he goes out and he does a video, Ford wants to park, you know, a Ford Explorer right there at the scene and make sure he gets a shot of that in there. So, you know, he's been able to tap into product placement. He used to do videos in the Southwest. Now he's, you know, he's as likely to be in Aruba as he is to be in, you know, Zion National Park doing videos. It's all about exposure, but ultimately, he's a good storyteller.
I think that's the key lesson, right? Content is still king, right? With distribution and discoverability a very close second, and some guys maybe even more important. But at the end of the day, content is what's going to get people to come. If you're not creating compelling content, nobody cares, right? So from a television perspective, the traditional broadcasters, I think maybe they're going through a positioning right now where, you know, maybe it's time to kind of step up our game when it comes to creating content, because there's a lot of platforms out there for distribution that are already in the living room competing with the same eyeballs that are flicking on that switch and, you know, watching what's ever on. So at the end of the day, regardless of what platform you're looking at, I think we've all kind of realized that content is still king.
Yeah, content's king. The thing I'd add to that is that as you're, you know, you may be waiting until that moment where your content's at that place where it's gone really big, and in that meantime, you can cultivate and build that community online, and then when you're ready to go, or when you just the content is elevated online, you've got an audience there that's following you along.
So one question I wanted to ask everybody here is, are you a grumpy cat or a keyboard cat? Oh, wait. Oh, sorry. No, that's for the millennials panel. That's later. Never mind. Although that is a relevant question.
They're saying now that the royal baby is the new grumpy cat.
Which, yes, emotional
I love
baby.
cat videos, yes.
Whitney, I wanted to ask you about the barriers of entry to doing a full-blown TV show versus the kind of things you're doing now. I mean, I would think that a glamour branded show like the one we just saw there would be a natural fit for a TV audience, or any of the number of lifestyle channels that we now see across the spectrum, and yet you guys are doing it online. How far is the gap between, okay, we can get this done at the online video level versus we can get this done as a TV show? And does that gap need to close, or what do broadcasters have to do to kind of get you guys interested in doing that again?
It's a great question, and within Condé Nast Entertainment, we actually have a film division, a television division, and then a digital team. And the film and TV group are really out there kind of as development execs, structuring deals based on articles from our publications. So we do see that as a huge opportunity. The shows that we're producing, the digital first programming, I mean, the lines are really blurring. So we're in business with Roku for their set-top box. We're developing actively for a number of other set-top boxes. So it's not just about watching it on your desktop or watching on your mobile device. In terms of taking those shows and creating more traditional programming out of them for the television, that's something that we would be interested in doing, but right now we want to create content that's so great that it could be not to threaten anyone from the NAB, but that could be substitutional for the shows that you're watching on your couch on Friday night.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it's about creating compelling content. I alluded to earlier, I don't care what platform it's on. It's compelling, it's out there, it's being distributed. That's what I care about. So I think, and I think the shift is happening, but more importantly, it's happening on the buy side, right? So there's been this separation of kind of church to state. There's digital and there's linear, right? And we did an announcement last year with Forefronts where we actually put our content in front of television buyers. And that shift in mentality is slowly happening. And I think the objective, at least from our end, is video's video. Doesn't matter what platform it's on, doesn't matter what distribution method it is, it's video. And if it's compelling, that's what we care about.
Talk to me, Frank, a little bit about just because I came upon the Hank Azaria show and I was able to watch a few minutes of it. It was great. What do you say when you are approaching talent like that? Hey, we want to make a, talent who's Hank Azaria is a TV star. He's been in movies. He's been in all kinds of things. We've seen movie stars willing to sort of make the leap to TV without feeling like they're dinging their careers. I think now that is just filtering down very quickly into online. I mean, what's the pitch?
The beauty of it is with the distribution we have, and I think in general, just online, I think a lot of times online can kind of serve as an incubator for other programming. And a lot of these stars, these A-list talent, have these pet projects that they just love, and they can't necessarily get it into a linear broadcast or somewhere along those lines. We give them the power, obviously, to distribute that content, work with them, give them creative control, everything they need, right? But it's, what we have found is there's a lot of A-list talent out there with pet projects that are actually really, really cool, and they don't have the ability to get them off the ground, and we can serve that purpose. Other times, it's the concept that we will pitch out to the representatives. The representatives might say, hey, you know what? That's a pretty cool talent. That's a pretty cool idea. We have talent that might be interested in that. Let's run it by some of our options. So it's kind of a combination of us being proactive out there with the representatives and the agencies, but also a lot of times it's talent bringing us ideas that are compelling.
So you are interacting with the agencies on a sort of traditional level.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But think of the audience that they can build, not through traditional platforms, not just being on TV. I mean, they get to tap into a whole new audience, perhaps a younger audience. And I can't think of a brand that's on TV or a film that hasn't really leveraged social media to either broaden or capture a new audience. And we see that all the time on YouTube. The talk shows are a great example where you've got the Jimmy Fallons and the Kimmels and the Ellens of the world who are really leveraging the platform. And so a good example is that Jimmy Fallon recently asked his YouTube audience to send him videos of them playing video games with their moms. So it's you playing video games with your moms. These are young guys who sent in these videos and connecting with Jimmy Fallon in a way that they probably aren't going to connect with him on air, that they didn't think they could. And then, oh, okay, well, maybe I'll tune in on air to watch his shows. So I think that talent needs to be thinking about what their presence is and their brand is online.
Yeah.
An important nuance, though, and maybe I'm just channeling my many conversations with agents at the big agencies, is that traditional A-list celebrities who might not have a huge digital profile, the big nuance, and Frank will appreciate this, is the digital production budget versus the traditional TV production budget. And it's really about making the case that this is helping to incubate their pet project or build out their social and digital profile. And often that's what tends to get those talent deals over the line for the content that we're producing, instead of here's a huge check, because we would never be able to build a viable business if that's how we were producing all of these shows.
Yeah, agreed.
What's more important, and this can just be a binary question for all of you when you're engaging talent to do something, their sort of traditional Q score, how famous they are, or how social they are?
To be quite honest with you, social for us. Q score is great and all, but I mean, yeah, okay, we're probably not going to go out and do a show with, I don't know, name your trashiest celebrity out there. But obviously that plays a factor, but to be quite honest with you, social backing is a huge factor that is absolutely essential in success for online.
I concur. And a huge part of our strategy has been to align ourselves with digital influencers, whether it's a YouTube content creator or a really influential fashion blogger who's great with video. And we love to have A-list celebrities too, but we find that we get more traction within YouTube or AOL with digital celebrities versus more traditional celebrities.
Yeah, and there's the rub, the YouTube star. The YouTube stars are everywhere. They seem to be taking over. By the way, this all validates what I wrote 4 or 5 years ago now, that if you are a celebrity and you don't have Twitter and Facebook, you're an idiot and you're going to get left behind. But I don't have a mic to drop here and walk off the stage with on that one, so I won't. But the YouTube stars have become...
I like to call them YouTube content creators.
YouTube content, okay. Okay. There you go.
They're celebrities in their own rights, and probably a lot of us in this room don't know them because we're not watching their content. But for their fans, I mean, tuning into YouTube and watching their daily shows or weekly shows is just the same as tuning into television to watch it. It's their form of entertainment. And today we're seeing that long-form programming from these creators is performing really well. So you look at the Vice documentaries, which are 45 minutes plus. If you look at Freddie Wong's Video Game High School, those are 30-minute episodes. And there's just numerous examples of the 30-minute to an hour-long format on YouTube that's outperforming a lot of the short content now. So there's been a real shift there that I think this creator base has helped create.
It kind of gets us into the 800-pound gorilla in the room of online video, which is monetization. And I know that it is a challenge for everybody, not just the creators, not just the channel curators, not even just the platforms, everybody across the board. From an audience perspective, I see pre-roll before the video that I watched. There might be interstitial things. There might even be branded content things that you guys are doing. What I want to know is, what are the emerging revenue streams for online content in terms of monetization? And maybe what are some of the more traditional ones that are going away? What's the shift that's happening right now with how you guys are making money with this stuff?
So I think pre-roll has kind of been predominant for a long time, right? I think creating the creative behind pre-roll needs to kind of step its game up a little bit. I also think the web has created a non-traditional distribution method for a lot of these brands to get their message out there without it, right? So branded content is becoming a much bigger piece of what we do. But I have to caveat that by saying it's got to be good branded content. You can't just have a 7-minute tour of some property if you're a hotel chain and say, we created branded content, I want to get this distributed. It's going to fail. If you take something like Nike, where they did it with Messi, and they had the talent that Nike has access to create compelling stories around training camps, around whatever it is, with a branded Nike message behind it, and distribution attached to it, is going to be way more effective than the 30-second pre-roll, right? It just is. I think we're all used to kind of skipping ads, right? YouTube's got the TrueView product, and I think a lot of us click on a video, pre-roll comes up, we open another tab, wait till that pre-roll's over, we go back. Shouldn't be saying that, since that's my business, but let's face back, that's what it is. I'm not stupid. So I think branded is going to be a much bigger piece of the advertising ecosystem. The only thing is distribution needs to go along with it.
I feel like also the audience has become less cynical about branded entertainment, as long as it doesn't look too over the top like it's branded. It's one thing to have Walmart, appear 4 times in Man of Steel. It's another thing if Nike makes a really cool video that people just want to pass around because it's really cool. Yep. Do you see branded content coming up?
Red Bull's a good example of that. It's kind of Nike-like maybe a little bit, but Red Bull makes all sorts of different content that is not based on stars, although they sometimes have access to those. But among young men, it's interesting, great, action-oriented video, and the fact that they may have a big blow-up Red Bull something in the middle of the video, who cares?
I mean, look at GoPro, right? That's a great example.
GoPro's another great example. Guys, I love GoPro.
GoPro's basically pivoted into a media company entirely through by leveraging user-generated content, but also its own content. I think we should hold the advertising brands accountable to a certain extent as well, and that's one of the whole points of TrueView, which is YouTube's skippable ad format. So you have to watch the first 5 seconds of the ad, and then you can skip. And the advertising brand only pays if the user watches that whole ad. But I love to skip ads, and I found myself actually watching these TrueView ads because they're really compelling. So I think if the advertisers can get it right, and maybe it's through branded content or just making those pre-rolls more compelling, the user will stick around.
Well, we all look forward to the day when pre-roll is over. It never happens again. But I'm with you. Every once in a while, something will grab you. It's an interesting challenge for somebody who's making an ad.
If they're targeted the right way.
Yeah, you have to make those first 4 or 5 beats really, really good, and then I might hang around.
Right.
Interesting. What other things are making money for you guys? There's got to be there's other revenue streams out there that you're exploring, that you're getting into.
Sponsorship. Right. I mean, it continues to be a very big business. I think will continue to be a very big business, right? The right shows with the right advertisers, it makes sense. If you're doing a show on technology and, you know, Microsoft wants to come in and purchase it, yeah, you'll do that, right? I mean, it gives you the ability to kind of, you know, recoup your entire cost out of the gate. So sponsorship, I think, is becoming a bit more important than it used to be, a bit more of a factor than it used to be, I guess you could say.
I think the crowdfunding is also really interesting that's happening in the space. So this isn't revenue that we're sharing in, but it's sustaining the creator community in an interesting way. And so if you look at what's happening on Kickstarter and Indiegogo, there's, for example, the Young Turks. This is a popular news channel on YouTube. They didn't have a newsroom. They needed that production studio, so they started a campaign, and they raised the money to build it. So it goes back to, like, if you have that fan base and that community that's supporting your brand, and you can call on them when you need them, it can be very powerful.
Speaking about news, you know, news has become so commoditized and so of the moment that if news is more than a couple hours old, I won't share it. I'm like, we've moved on. If I've seen it somewhere else, even 15, 20 minutes later, unless I'm right on top of it, and maybe that's just my instincts as a newsman, what does online video have to do to kind of get on the edge of that? Because it seems to me like it takes some time. It takes time to put a video together, right? It takes several hours, in some cases several days, to put together a quality-looking content. But if it's something that's around an event or that's around something that's going viral, you don't have the luxury of that time. Is there a future for that?
I think from our perspective, we're a bit different because we have the luxury of working with guys like Condé and others who are already creating this content. We have human programmers going through this content daily, so they know the library like the back of their hand. So if there's a breaking news story, they know exactly where to go to get that content from an AP or from Reuters. They're already sourcing that content, pulling it together. So I think from our perspective, I would say don't just depend on technology to do your job. You got to have the human factor that comes into play. Make sure you have programmers who understand what the audience is looking for and understand your library. That's what's been a success factor for us on news.
Yeah, I mean, timeliness in news is important if you're playing the breaking news game, and you should always think very carefully about all the metadata that's surrounding that video that's going up, because there's a lot of competition there. But going back to being true to your audience and your voice, I think there are people who, if there's a story that's breaking, they're turning to CNN first because that's the voice that they trust, or they're turning to BuzzFeed first, or Mashable, or Vice News, or
Thanks for the plug there, by the way.
And so you want to play the game, you want to play that timely game to a certain extent so that when people are searching, your results are up there. But I think you also want to just stay the course and in really creating a voice that people want to return to.
You know, it's funny, in the world of Right This Minute, we produce, our production model is we produce Right This Minute today for tomorrow. And so we keep all the cable news channels up on the in our newsroom so that we can look at them. And it's not unusual. We find a video that we think is going to be really timely. But if it hits CNN in the middle of the afternoon, it's dead to us, because we don't want to be on and have you say, well, you know, I already saw that video. Whether it's informational or whether it's funny, if it's old, you know, that's not the currency, because really what you're talking about is I want to be on top of it. I want to know what is newest, latest. And so, you know, our competition is to, you know, find it before GMA finds it or before the Today Show finds it. Otherwise, it's too old for us.
Well, speaking of crowdsourcing, as we have been, we've got about 10 minutes left. I wanted to take any questions from the audience, if there be any. Whoa, right there. Go ahead. You can. You can just. Is there a mic?
There's one right behind.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there we go. and see that there.
Hi, thank you. This is great. My name's Julie. I work for a spiritual group, and we have gallons and gallons of content. And in the last few years, spirituality is just starting to really rise. I do live streaming events, retreats, workshops, seminars from around the world. But this is content from our guru, if you want to say that. How do I take that? And we just actually signed a contract, for example, with Uyala, and we really want to start getting it out there. And we're also doing a lot of good works, and we work with millennials, with the Huffington Post, and things like that. But how do we work with content that's focused on something so specific? You guys get to go and create it with creative ideas and a different type of world. Like when she was, I'm sorry, I forgot your name, with the black shirt. I was laughing because one of my thoughts was spiritual glamour. That could be a really great, fun thing. But where do I go with what I'm working with?
It's a great question, and something that I haven't touched on about Condé's strategy is that for every dollar that we've invested in the production of content, we've invested $1 in marketing. And that marketing is across a number of channels. It's owned media, so whether we're advertising in our magazine or on our own owned and operated websites, or sending out emails to existing fans of our publications, whether it's earned media, earning press for the Sarah Jessica Parker video or the Kate Bosworth video, or doing things of the moment, hosting events to highlight our content. Then on the social front, really leveraging the social footprints of our brands across Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and making sure that we're pushing all of our content out, optimizing the time that we're reaching the fans of our content on Twitter via promoted tweets, and then paid media too, whether it's advertising via pre-roll on YouTube or search and display, and again, aligning ourselves with the right digital influencers for each one of our brands. We spend tons of time focusing on making sure that our content reaches the right audience, not just the audience that already loves our content, but we think the audience that should love our content and might not know about it.
Yeah, that speaks to exactly what we're trying to do, is get away from the audience we have to getting out. It's just huge.
I would also strike deals with syndication networks, right? They're out there, they're looking for compelling content. If the content is compelling enough, they'll take it, they'll distribute it for you. I think there's a reason why every single one of us have a channel on YouTube, right? It's got the scale, and we need to be there. But there's also kind of the non-traditional distribution method. So syndication networks are a very big part of the web, and getting content there can get you into places that you maybe not have even thought of.
Frank's got one of those for you, actually.
I do have one of those. I do have a large syndication network as one of the things that I cover, yes. Okay. Thank you for the plug.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Somebody else there?
With all your analytics, what age range do you find in online? Is it across the board, or is it below a certain age? Who's your real target market for all of you and all your products?
Varies for us. We have 15 different verticals, all with their own kind of different intricacies and
right. But would you say is it like under 50?
So it depends. It really depends on vertical. I'd say the homepage itself skews a bit older and skews a bit female. But different verticals, like a sports, that's 18 to 30. That's basically the coveted demo everybody wants. Automobiles is different. Food is different. But I'd say because we probably would be a bad person to ask that question, because we have so many different verticals that everything has its own different skew from our end. So
maybe I'm not asking the question properly. Everything you said is correct. Is there an age above which you find that people are not online, enjoying online content?
We don't find that there's an age above which people aren't online enjoying content, but we do find that in that 18 to 35-year-old demo, those are the power users. Those are the people who are coming every day. They're watching an hour at least of content. So you can find any age group, but it's more about who are the kind of aggressive consumers, and that's definitely, that does skew younger.
And you're finding that people actually spend an hour on YouTube a day?
Absolutely.
Sorry, that's obviously not my demo.
Like I said, I mean, there's a lot of long-form programming that's really resonating with that audience. And they come to YouTube, and this is their form of entertainment for the day. And if you have a YouTube channel, you can look at the demographics and the regional distribution of your audience and see exactly what age groups from around the world are tuning in, so you can get a sense for who your audience is.
Okay, thank you.
When do you, right now you're talking about monetization coming up, but when do you anticipate the maturity of the industry to the point where content creators actually are going to be earning a living by creating content? I know there's maybe a handful who do it now, but when will there be guilds and unions and paid staff and crew?
I think when the buying side shifts, to be quite honest with you. I think that the buy side, the dollars are still in the billions, obviously the high billions on the television market, low billions in the digital market. I think when the buying shifts, and that's when the dollars are going to shift, and that's when all that starts popping up. That being said, there are content creators right now that are strictly online, digital, that are creating a living out of it and doing well. I mean, Vice is a great example of somebody who's done really well by creating content for the web, and they just recently did their HBO show last year, but they've traditionally been a web property. I think it's happening now, but I think that it'll truly become commonplace when that buy-side mentality shifts along with it.
It's an incredibly small percentage, though, you're describing at this point. I mean, crowdfunding and volunteer people is what we're talking about today, correct? Do you have an estimate of what kind of transition time there might be before it becomes a mature industry?
I think the technology needs to get there, but I also think that the shift is slowly happening. But right now, I think there's too many different technologies that buyers take a look at for their information and their buying decisions, and not everybody's communicating properly. So I don't think it's more around disruption. I think it's more around unification is what needs to happen. Video's video, regardless of the platform it's on, but that shift just is not there. As far as time frames go, I have no idea. If I knew that question, I'd be a very rich man.
But I do think for content creators, you ought to be encouraged by it. I know it's not there now, but the problem that we run into is trying to syndicate a broadcast show is shelf space. There are only so many places you can run a television show on a broadcast network or on broadcast stations or on cable. And what these people are doing is they're giving you more avenues if you're a content creator to have direct access to the people who want to consume your content. So it's coming. I don't know whether I'll be around to see it all, but it's there.
Do you lay most of that on the advertisers? You were mentioning that to get them to get to the point where you can't click out of their commercial 5 seconds in because it's so compelling. Are you also saying then that when they actually look at online video as a viable place to reach their constituents, potential constituents, and they're not seeing that yet?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's traditional mentalities that are still in play, right? And you take a look at linear, it's the cannon shot, right? You can reach a bunch of people at any given time, whereas I always kind of say the digital side is more of that precise sniper shot, right? You can reach your direct audience where it needs to be. I think the advertisers get it. They're creating, there's creative around advertising with branded content, others where they're looking to fill that need. But I think it's just, at this point, it's a buy-side mentality that's just not there yet.
Going to give it 5 years?
Hopefully.
Did you want to go ahead? This is going to be our last question. I'm sorry, folks. So we've just got a few minutes left, but please go ahead.
Okay. My question, I'm going to start with an assumption that, eyeballs are eyeballs, but eyeballs in traditional media are getting paid at a much better rate than eyeballs in online. And do you think that's just based on tradition? Is there any actual difference? If you're getting the content in front of people, does it matter what platform or how you're getting it to them?
I don't think it matters if the goal is to build a brand that could then migrate to any platform, right? So you have a creator who has a following, and all of a sudden they're merchandising on YouTube videos. All of a sudden that show is getting picked up by HBO. So you don't really, like when you upload a video to YouTube, or at least our mentality is we don't think about which platform it's going to. It goes to all of them. We don't care where our audience is, we want them to be able to find that video, and we want the user experience to be the same. So in that sense, I think that those lines have completely blurred.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think content creators today need to be looking at the platform as a single thing, not kind of oh, it's just going to television or just target digital, right? It's kind of ubiquitous at this point. It's all mixed in together, video's video.
And so much content is ad supported. Like, when do you think the ad agencies are going to catch up to that?
Slowly but surely they're getting there. Again, if I had the time frame, I probably wouldn't be on this panel. I'd be counting my money somewhere on an island. But it's getting there. It's getting there.
I think the takeaway here is that we're all going to be rich. It's just going to take time.
Yes, everybody in this room is going to be rich.
Some time. Yeah, we just have to be patient. That's all the time we have, speaking of taking time. Thank you all so much for being here, for being smart enough to be here today. Thanks to the panelists. You guys did great.
Thank you.
We'll see you on a YouTube channel near you. Take care.